All right, welcome to another episode of Evening Crypto with your boy, the Real Shaw, 256, bringing you another episode. And tonight's episode, due to the lack of news other than the price of Bitcoin moving around a bit in the last couple of days, we are going to talk about the charts mainly. So not really anything to talk about as far as like news or events, or anything significant to really spend some time talking about. So let's get into the charts here fairly quickly. We'll first do a recap of the current market cap. We're at $245.5 billion. Trading volume is 24. The last 24 hours has been about 57.2, 57 and a quarter, and BTC dominance has stayed pretty steady at 69.1%. Nothing's really changed there. Although, again, going back to yesterday's video where we saw that big, sort of big dip, about 7% altogether. We saw that this volume here, 57 billion, is actually mainly selling of volume, right? Pressure to the downside. This is what we see, sending the price of Bitcoin and alts through the floor instead of through the roof. So we'll get into the charts here in just a minute. I do want to bring up this tweet here, just to bring a little bit of awareness, right? Especially if you're new to the crypto space. This is sort of the thing that I like to talk about in this channel, right? I consider myself to be sort of an anarchist in some ways. Not gonna get into too much of that. I know it might be boring for you guys, but anyway, Rhythm Trader is an account on Twitter that I would highly recommend you guys go and follow. He has these sort of tweets all the time, and I mean the person behind this handle is absolutely genius. Nothing but great tweets, great content there, and just things to make you really put your gears in action and just ponder about these sort of things, right? Says on his tweet today, 10 million per Bitcoin is crazy. So talking about the price of Bitcoin being 10 million, it seems like a crazy thought, right? And especially after the last couple of days price action, kind of seems like a steep hill, right? But want to know what's even crazier? Quantitative easing, negative interest rates, fractional reserve banking, elimination of cash, mass surveillance, currency wars, capital controls, and inflation. Bitcoin isn't the virus, it's the antidote. So, for a lot of us, if you're a millennial or maybe younger, this sort of thing may not sink in too much, but I'm a generation, what is it, Gen X, and this sort of thing is something that we grew up with, right? Knowing that that negative interest rates can happen, fractional reserve banking, elimination of cash. We've been growing up with going from actual cash to digital sort of exchange methods through credit cards and whatnot. Mass surveillance. I mean, the amount of surveillance that we see nowadays is absolutely astonishing. Currency wars, as we see now, capital controls, and inflation. Inflation's a huge one. I mean, we just grow up through these different channels of education and information, where we just take inflation as something that is ingrained in our minds and our hearts, to know that money loses value, and that's just the way it is. That's the nature of the beast. But up until cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, that was pretty much the only way to do business. That was pretty much the only way we can own money and really think of money. And again, Bitcoin just coming out of the woodwork and showing us a different method of value storage, right? Instead of having something that is inflationary, Bitcoin gives us the option to jump into something that is deflationary with time. It's got a set limit of coins that will ever be minted, and thus as the adoption goes up within Bitcoin, then you see the price of it actually valuating higher and higher with time. So that is something very, very unique, something that we have not seen prior to fiat currencies. We can say that there is something similar in gold. Definitely can be said, but the thing with gold is we don't know if there is a cap or not, right? We don't know if there is a cap, and will ever. I mean, there's got to be a limit to it, obviously, because we're on Earth, and at some point we're gonna hopefully find all of it, but I don't think it's gonna be anytime soon. But again, we just don't know what the limit is on gold. So there is an inflation rate there with gold as well. Bitcoin, although there is an inflation rate, that inflation rate is getting ready to be cut in half by next year around summertime or so. So let's jump off the soapbox. Let's get into the charts. Let's look at Bitcoin, see what it is doing. And I had told you guys last night, if you didn't watch the video, go back and watch it. I was telling you guys about this move here. We actually saw playing out here. Actually, I want to go back to the lower time frames. So last night, I won't worry about that too much. Last night we were trading at around 9,700. About 9,700, somewhere in this range here, where my cursor is at the current moment, somewhere in here. And I told you guys that, a little bit of crystal ballish type of thinking here, that we might come back and sort of trade sideways but upwards here to come back and retest 9850. But that didn't happen, and I told you guys, I warned you that if we did actually start coming back down here, that would mean we would actually gain some momentum to the downside, and that would be dangerous. Come back and retest the 9400 area, as we are doing currently, trading at 9441, and that was the more scarier scenario of the two bear scenarios, because the first bear scenario was, okay, we might grind ourselves back up here, but unfortunately, that would mean that we're still building another bear flag, right? If that was the case. So we did gain some velocity and some momentum to the downside, and actually came back and retested 9,400, which was the second, but more the higher alert type level of bearish scenario. And now the worst absolute possible scenario in my mind is, not only did we not even come back and retest 9,850 or 9,900 for that matter, we actually continued on the way down, and now we're seeing sort of a small bear flag forming here, trying to kind of trade on the upwards, sideways but upwards, in a sideways but upward trend, which would mean that we could potentially form another bear flag, which again, the result of those lately has been to the downside, right? We haven't seen one break on the opposite end of that. We did see this bear flag forming here and actually playing out. It played the move downward out of this bear flag here, and then we did see it forming up again on another sort of bear flag here, and then breaking out as well. So we seem to be in this trend. So not sure when this will end. This is, in my eyes, pretty easy to read. The chart is telling us, hey, it's a unless you want to go short, absolutely. I would even say, it's not a bad idea to go short at like 95 or 95.50, maybe 9600. You could actually go short on those levels. Because I do think, again, this is already starting to look, on the 4 hour, it's starting to look like a bear flag here. So, or maybe like a symmetrical wedge, maybe, that could also be said. So, it seems like we are going to come back and retest this area here at 8,900 or 9,000. That is the next area I am looking at. We haven't seen a bounce off of this area. which also indicates, that there isn't enough momentum from or buying pressure from the bulls to actually propel the price up and retest this top area here at what is it, 9850 to 9900. Unless we see a move here out of nowhere pretty much and come back and retest these areas and start opening and closing some significant candles like a 4 hour on top of this area, then I will remain bearish for the time being on a shorter time frame of things, right? So and again, hopefully you were paying attention to these last couple of videos, because I did warn you guys about what my overall feeling and inclination was in regards to where we'd go next. If you go back and watch Monday's video, you'll see that. Okay, so let's see. That's our 4 hour. It did look earlier in the day like we wanted to actually retest the 30 simple here, and I want to find the time frame. Unless, yeah, in the 3 hour we actually see it actually coming in and retesting the 30 simple, but actually got rejected off of it. Not a good sign. It is the 30 simple. And then on the 2 hour, it's showing us we actually traded along the 30 simple, but again, not really been. This is a really bad sign on the lower time frames, right? We cannot get above the 30 simple here. Terrible sign in my eyes. I am not touching it. I'm not putting in a long here. If anything, I might be putting in a short here. Not the other way around. The 1 hour also looks, actually 1 hour doesn't look as bad. I need to zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, no, it actually looks just as bad. We try to get above it, but then got rejected by the 30 on the 1 hour. So we got confluence here, bearish confluence here with the 1 hour, the 2 hour, the 3 hour. Everything is telling us bear. Getting rejected off the 30 again. On the 2 hour, it looks like we are coming back and retesting the 21 exponential, which is down on the lower end of the neutral zone here in the RSI. So I mean, it should be a pretty easy move to the upside, but I honestly, I do think it's already starting to look like a actual rejection off of the 21. So unless we actually get above the 30 and at least reach to get above the 21 here, I do think we are quite possibly going to get a cross to the downside here on the RSI on the 2 hour. Now it is a lower time frame, so anything can happen with those things. But look, if we look at the 3 hour, we're actually already getting a rejection off of the neutral zone here, and it looks like it wants to tick back into the deeper bear zone. So it's not a good thing here. The 3 hour actually showing us that we are pretty bearish at the very moment. So look for continuation to the downside here in the next few hours, and quite possibly into tomorrow. Looking at this as well, the 4 hours also in confluence with that. So the lower time frames, 1 hour, 1 through 4 hours, are telling us the same thing. There's confluence there. There's bearish momentum, and so this downward momentum and price action is very likely to continue. Of course, we've said that in the past, and then Bitcoin just put the big cork in our mouths, because it is Bitcoin and these markets are wild like that. The daily also looking very bearish, definitely getting into that bear control zone here. And then we are making a lower low as well. So, I mean, definitely continuation as well on the daily, which again, the daily is going to have plenty more weight on something like this. So, sorry to be the bearer of bad news coming into the weekend. Tomorrow is Friday. I know it is already Friday in some other areas of the world, but don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but that just seems like the likely scenario. So if you've been holding and thinking, I'm waiting for a bounce, good and bad, right? We are holding this prior low here. We are holding this, but it does look like it wants to lose it based on everything that we're seeing here, unless we have bottomed out for the time being and we actually turn this around. But it doesn't look, at the very moment, doesn't look like that is the case. the question might be in your head, if you've been holding on to this, is it worth holding on to? Well, I'd say, if you made it this far from 12,277, just, as an example, all the way to current price at 94, 9,500, I would say wait for confirmation that we do lose this previous pivot of support here. If we do lose this, then we're going to very likely come back and retest again 8,900 or 9,000, and then you could scale back in, right? What's going to happen there is you're actually going to increase your amount of Bitcoin owned. So if you own, say, 0.10% of a Bitcoin, you sell here, this would be, let's actually put a measurement on this move here. So about 4% gain, right, on your bag, right? Regardless of the price. I know you've already lost some money here, but if the price keeps dipping, and you sell your bags, say right around here, 94.50, you are in for a potential 4% gain if you buy back in here. Not financial advice, but just a simple tip for all you newbies to the trading world. That is something that you could try to do as well. Not financial advice, like I said, but as somebody new coming into the space and looking for some techniques to increase your Bitcoin bags, that might be a way to do it. So I mean, there's ways you can make money even on a bear trend, even when things seem to be dumping, right? So although everything's looking pretty bearish, we hope that Bitcoin will hold this important area of support here, where we are currently sitting at 9,400, excuse me, to 9,500, because it is a pivotal area of support, and it would only mean that if we break it, we're going to come back and retest some previous low areas, which is counterproductive to what we all want, right? We all want to see Bitcoin reach up to higher highs and previous higher levels, like this previous yearly high at 13,900 or 14,000 if you want to round up. All right. So now remember, we're not super bearish on this, although for the short time, the price action is pointing downward, right? But remember, the macro trend is very important in this. It's very important for you to keep that in mind as well. The macro trend is still within this falling channel here, which these in the macro trend again would signal sort of a bull flag. So we could very well come back and actually break this previous pivot here, which would definitely indicate that we're very likely to come back and retest the 382 here, this area of support here at 7,200, the low 7,000s, and then finally have a bounce and regain enough momentum to where we can break to the upside here and come back and retest some previous highs, right? So keep that in mind in the back of your head, that we're still within this trend. We haven't actually left this trend here. Not until we break this to the downside or break out to the upside will we be able to say that, okay, that move, that macro trend, that trend that we were in for such a very long time has now ended, and we're now moving into a new set of rules or new set of trends, right? So hopefully that is something that you guys are are able to understand, and if not, definitely leave it down in the comments and I will get to them. I will try to answer your questions, and you know what, feel free to leave very specific questions and detail as much as you can, and also I've told you guys I don't charge for any sort of advice or help that you guys want or need. If you are paying, or I'm sure you're seeing that there's plenty of channels out there that are telling you to join their Telegram, telling you to join their private group where they will charge you money for either signals or trade alerts or what have you. I just want to tell everybody here that there's a lot of resources out there that you can leverage to learn really these techniques and really become a better trader, and you don't have to pay anybody. That is, if you want to do it yourself. If you like that kind of thing, if you want to pay somebody to tell you when to trade, when to go in and out, then I guess you can do that as well. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, but I'm also here to tell you that there is plenty of good, solid resources. People with the background, people who have been doing it for a while and successfully been doing it for a long time, and you can leverage that information to help you become a better trader in this market and in any market, really. All right, so that is what we've got. Again, leave it down in the comments if you guys have a different opinion, or if I missed something, if you want me to cover something else. Definitely leave it down in the comments. Let's go through the list here. I told you guys, I gave you sort of a indication that we were actually going to go up and retest this upper area of resistance here within the formation here. We're actually going to change this to red so we know that it is resistance. Last night I was telling you guys we were down here and around the, what was it, 288 range. Let you guys know that we are very likely to come back up actually and retest this previous area of resistance, which we did, and we did close the day on the S&P a bit on the red side, but I mean not after we actually recuperated quite a bit from the opening of the market this morning. I actually want to bring it to the daily. We closed this previous daily candle here, and then we opened way up and reached into the 293 range again today, and that was something that we were talking about last night's video. If you guys want to go back and fact check me, you guys can do that. That is on last night's video. Gold was actually down a little bit today, which unfortunately wasn't enough of a move downward in gold, because Peter Schiff is still talking crap about crypto and Bitcoin, saying how it is not a hedge, and it's you're stupid for wasting your money and putting your money into Bitcoin. Nonsense. We all know, it's up about 150% in just 2019 alone, but he's worried about a 7 to 8% drop in the last couple of days. So I do think gold is probably going to find a bounce here. If it does, it is currently trading right on top of the 30 simple here. Did have a significant bounce, so I do expect this bounce to actually continue and come back and retest 145.75 if you're into gold. That is on the shorter term, but overall, we seem to be in an uptrend with gold, and it does seem like it wants to continue up that way. I've been telling you guys that since the beginning of the summer, a couple of months back, that there was a shift in momentum within these hedge plays, and also because the traditional markets were looking pretty dim. There was already talks of a possible trade war and all these sort of things. And so traditional markets were starting to take a downturn, or at least starting to look like they were losing momentum, bullish momentum, and quite possibly were due to have a correction, right? Especially because of all the political nonsense that's been going on, right? So if you are in gold, I would expect a bounce again on there. XRP holding on to this bottom level of support here. Let's actually zoom out a bit here and look at where we are at. This was a huge area of support. This one where we're currently sitting, also a pretty big area of support, and we're actually holding it. But the bad news is that Bitcoin is looking bearish, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we do break this area on the next dip if Bitcoin does decide to move down into the lower 9,000 in the next couple of days. I do expect this move to actually come back, or XRP to actually come back and retest 19 cents, which I put here for you guys because I did call that was a very likely move in my eyes, especially if Bitcoin had a dip, and everything's playing out in that sort of scenario. So I would venture a guess here that we are going to actually come back and retest 19 cents. and then we'll reassess from there, right? Depending on what's happening in the markets, is Bitcoin having a positive reaction, actually showing us a bounce? Then we can maybe start thinking otherwise. But as of right now, I do think we're going to come back and retest 19 cents. Not financial advice again, but if you are thinking of getting into XRP, I would actually wait for it to come back down into the 19 cents range. Let's talk about BNB. And I do want to give a shout out to Crypto Steve for sending us his comments regarding what he prefers to trade within BNB and Bitcoin. Now, here's the problem, Steve. The thing is, we're looking at two. We could say they're somewhat. They have a positive correlation, and they're both seem to be in a downtrend. So it is going to be very tough for you to increase your bags. I mean, you have to be very, very skilled. I personally don't feel the confidence to actually trade to increase my bags. Say, I know you possibly want to increase your bags in BNB. I would be doing or trying to do the opposite. But if I was trading against BNB to BTC as a pair, I would, I think I would pass on that, my friend. I just see this as a very risky type of situation. I would actually switch from maybe this pair to, if you're trying to increase your BNB bags, I would probably switch to a USDT or a similar stable coin, just because again, you're in a downward pattern. Whether one loses more than the other, that's going to be just a fact of the situation that we're in currently. But it's going to be. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's not, right? Because if Bitcoin dips, then BNB is going to dip as well. Who dips harder? Typically, BNB will dip harder. As this, and the same goes for every altcoin out there. If Bitcoin dips, BNB is going to dip harder, or XYZ coin is also going to dip harder, right? As we've seen in the last few days. So, that's what I would do in your situation. But again, I don't have the full scope of your trading strategy and what you're trying to accomplish. If I am if I'm a day trader, that's what I would be doing, right? Hedging with something that is not losing 5-10% at a time every time it dips. Right now, BNB is coming down to the bottom of this descending channel here, or wedge. Typically, again, this would also coincide with what Bitcoin is doing. It is forming a sort of a bullish flag here, right? And it is closer to actually finishing the move here. So if it is going to have a positive reaction and actually have a bounce here, I would expect that to happen sooner rather than later, because again, we are very, very close to touching this bottom area of support here, and we could potentially see a bounce. Now, if we do lose this area here where the 377 is coming in at the bottom of the support line, if we lose this to the downside and come back and retest this 10 simple here, then at that point we get definitely ultra bearish here. Now, here's a very crucial area of support if we do break, right? This is going to be huge area of interest to me, right in here at about 18.35 cents. That's where I probably lose all confidence and faith on BNB, and as a result, a lot of altcoins as well. So pay attention to that. But again, I am certainly hopeful that Bitcoin and BNB will actually play this move out. Let's actually show you how Bitcoin is looking within that trend as well. Look at that. Very similar, although Bitcoin's actually holding on to this prior low here and doesn't quite want to give it up yet, right? Although everything we've went over says that it will. Unless we have a bounce here, which doesn't seem. We've already been at this 9,400 levels for about 24 hours almost, and no sight of an actual bounce. So it's not a good sign so far. Diminishing volume as well. We're now below this exponential on the volume, and RSI looking very bearish there. So let's go back to BNB. BNB is closer to make that move. So it is a bit frightening here, Steve, if you're still following this, because Bitcoin has a lot more way to go down if it wants to actually break that formation, right? If it actually wants to break down this formation, I mean, look at how much how much work it will have to do to the downside to actually break it. Whereas BNB is actually very close already to reaching that point. So if it actually breaks out of here, then these are key areas of support. Algorithms know that, and it could trigger a bigger sell-off here into the 10 simple here, and actually come back and retest this area here, right below, right around the 10 simple there, at 17 cents, lower 17 cents. So keep those things in mind. I actually want to see Bitcoin take a bounce here and recover, but that's what the charts are telling us right now. That's what we have to go off of. Okay. Looking at the lower time frames, yeah, I mean it hasn't even attempted to reach back up into the 30 simple here, so I'm definitely going to stay bearish on that. The RSI on the 4-hour also rejecting off of the neutral zone. I mean that just gives you a bad vibe right here. Not being able to actually get into the neutral zone and retest 21 is just taking across to the downside. So not a good thing there for BNB, Steve. Let's actually get into more. Let's get into a stable coin and try to stay safe there. Now Link also it's been doing this since I think it was doing this last night. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and recheck that. But I mean it's this line may be this line of support here may be out of whack here, because it seems like it found support a little bit lower, right, a little bit below our current line of support that we drew here. This might be a better interpretation of that line. Yeah, this might be an actual better interpretation here, because we do see previous resistance here and previous support as well. So so it is finding a little bit of support here at $1.75. But again, with anything else, it is looking like it wants to reach back down. And again, same thing that we saw here on the 4-hour with BNB rejecting off of the neutral zone, not even being able to get into this more neutral area to try and retest a 21 exponential on here. So everything's looking pretty weak for sure. Litecoin, gave you guys this target last night. We actually hit it. I had given you guys a previous target right here at around 67 cents, or 67, 68 cents, 66 cents, somewhere in there. I had given you guys that target. We actually hit it, and then I gave you guys a new target last night, and we actually hit that one. So Litecoin also not looking great. Does not even attempt to have a bounce here. Look at the 30 simple, just pushing the price down, not allowing Litecoin to have even a slight thought of bouncing up and retesting the 30. So looking again very bearish. Looking at the RSI, same thing as BNB and Link. So there's nothing here to actually be bullish about. Nothing different. All these alts are doing the same thing. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Yeah, Ethereum's, although it did try to touch the 30, however, it was immediately rejected, and we see the RSI. Actually, this looks a tiny bit better, where it actually made an attempt to get into the neutral zone here in the RSI, but it doesn't look like it's going to make it. It doesn't look like it's going to stay within that zone. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to really discuss here. Now, the 30 simple is coming in really close, so this should be an easy move to try and get above the 30 simple. But the fact that the 30 simple is just rejecting the price here is definitely, again, not a good sign. Let's look at the daily here with Ethereum, do a little bit more analysis on this one, since I know a lot of people like Ethereum. You know, it is finding definite support here above the 160 range. Say we were to lose that, we'd probably find support right around here at 151. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready. Let's just wait and see what Bitcoin does, because it does seem like it would find plenty of support here, but the daily just getting separation to the downside, just like we saw on the uptrend. The price of Bitcoin and all these alts having some of these alts having separation to the upside from these moving averages. Now we see the opposite. We do see separation from these moving averages to the downside, which is not a good thing. We're definitely on the opposite side of things right now. So, all right, gonna leave that as is. Let's actually go and talk about some other alts. We haven't touched EOS in a while. Dan Larimer has been pretty quiet. I think he actually left the camp now, or is doing something else now. Not heavily involved with EOS. So yeah, EOS is this is awful right here. We just set a new lower low, actually losing this area of previous support here, this previous pivot low. I don't like that. Don't ever like to see that. It just seems like more continuation to the downside. Let's see if we can identify a point of, actually, yeah, there's a point of support here coming in right around this area here at 289. If we break that, then, oh gosh, we should find support here. Okay. So again, if you're trying to get into EOS, I would say wait. There's a couple more areas of interest here where you might be able to actually jump in and get a much better trade there. That's the daily. Let's actually look at the 4-hour. You know, occasionally sometimes we'll find some of these alts doing something different, and that's always good to see if we can catch something like that. But at the current moment, looks like a rejection off the 30, just like everything else. Although the RSI is looking better than the rest of these coins, actually staying above the bearish control zone, actually, you know, making an effort to stay within the neutral zone, which would be easier to have a run from this point as opposed to actually having it. And look at EOS. I mean, it's just to its credit, it's actually been pretty reluctant. It's been pretty resilient in not actually reaching down lower into the bearish control zone. It's actually trying to keep that neutral zone area. So it could be, maybe EOS could have an easier fight to the upside as opposed to these other alts. All right, guys. So I'll leave it at that. Let me know again if you guys want me to cover a different coin or project. Always leave it down in the comments. I'll get to them, I promise. I also want to give a shout out to Timmy J. He commented and say thank you. I'm not sure what for or why, but you're welcome, Timmy J. And also I want to say a shout out to Off Blast for subscribing. Thank you, Off Blast, another subscriber to the channel. If you are getting something out of these videos, please hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification there, so you are alerted when I do put out these new updates within the charts. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Hope you have a great upcoming weekend if I don't catch you, and stay safe out there with your trades, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one. See ya.